Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to Phishnix's webinar titled Phishing in the Cloud, Strengthen Your Human Firewall. Today we'll be covering Phishnix and how to strengthen your firewalls as many organizations migrate from internal in-house applications to using popular cloud services like Salesforce.com, Google Apps, Office 365, etc. Risk managers are recognizing the need for security and risk mitigation to protect their sensitive and confidential data. Phishnix has seen this need and developed solutions for reducing phishing risk for Salesforce and other popular cloud services. This webinar will run about 45 minutes, and topics that we're going to cover today are what makes cloud services targets for phishing attacks, what cloud service providers expect clients to do, and Phishnix for cloud services solutions and how it helps. Today's presenter is Shelke. Samir is the co-founder, COO, and CTO of Algis. Phishnix is a product developed by Algis with about two decades of experience in the information technology and security industry. Samir has been a speaker at various industry events such as the RSA conference, CSO forums, Hacker Halted, CTO forums, and much more. Prior to Algis, Samir worked in leadership positions at Fidelity, Cisco, HP, and Microland. He has held various industry certifications and is based in Cupertino, California. Samir, welcome, and I'll turn the webinar over to you now.
Thanks, Mike, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thanks for your time, and as Mike said, I'll be covering phishing risks and certain solutions which could be developed around phishing attacks or spear phishing attacks, specifically around the cloud space. And that's sort of the topic and the area of discussion for today. So first let me talk about what we call as the social triangle. And this is the reason why today social engineering attacks are on the rise, specifically spear phishing and phishing attacks are on the rise, which is one of the most commonly used social engineering technique. Starting from the top, I think as I said, social engineering is something which is very prevalent at this point in time. All of us see that. All of us face that as risk managers and users. What is also happening in the last couple of years is it's now being used as a very pertinent technique in the important steps on advanced persistent attacks. So it's not just a model used wherein the attacker tries several hundred, several thousand phishing emails and figures out if he gets some hits. It's more used today in advanced persistent threat attacks or using APT kind of attacks where the attacker is persistently after a specific organization, a specific target. And we've seen that happen across various recent attacks which has happened in the industry. So use of social engineering specifically in phishing in advanced persistent threat attacks is something which is very prevalent now. The second thing is around the weakest link, as we call the users, or the users are the weakest link for organizations as far as security postures are concerned. We have a lot of technology in place. We have a lot of things around processes and audits in place. But when it comes to users, all of us are guilty of being not as diligent as we should be all the time, and that's what is exploited by these attackers. So the weakest link is something which we have recognized as people in the industry, and that's what we all work very hard towards. And then comes the issue of ineffective security controls. As the attacks mature, so do controls and security technology mature. Having said that, one of the most common or most important control around social engineering is user awareness and user education and how diligent users are. And we've seen that measure is not effective all the time. because everyone feels that it's not going to happen to me, and these user trainings are part of a checklist model which I have to complete. But we are not seeing training being as effective as it should be, and it's very important for users to be diligent, especially against phishing and social engineering attacks. So that's the triangle we face today, which is further sort of complicated by technologies such as the cloud and mobile, and I'll talk about that as we go forward. As I said, phishing is something which is very prominently used. There's a very nice research paper published by IBM around the phishing, around vulnerabilities and attacks which happened over the last year. And you will see at the top of the slide a chart which shows major attacks which have happened in the industry and what they were attributed to from a weakness standpoint or a vulnerability standpoint. And you see there that several of them are sort of attributed to spear phishing. And most commonly known was the RSA attack, which happened earlier on. It started with a phishing attack on specific internal users of RSA, and that's how it escalated beyond that. And we've seen several of them, and I'm sure the later ones where it's not attributed to any specific reason. We can pretty much extrapolate that phishing was used or social engineering was used definitely as some threat vector into the whole aspect. So that's something we have to be aware of as organizations, that it is a real threat for us at this point in time. And it sort of further gets complicated by the fact that phishing attacks and phishing websites and the whole activity around phishing is growing all the time, and it's obviously very obvious why. Is because the growth of the presence of organizations as businesses on the internet, the prevalent use of social engineering and phishing techniques, and so on and so forth. So every single month, as we see reports coming out, phishing attacks are always on the rise. Now coming to the cloud situation. Now why does it why do cloud services become an easier target or a very attractive target for phishing attacks? And just as a demonstration, I'm just putting forth an email here, which looks like an email which comes to a Salesforce user, and I'm using Salesforce just as an example. It pretty much can happen in any cloud, for any cloud service. Wherein the mail comes in to a Salesforce user, apparently from Salesforce. If you look very closely, you would know it's coming from a URL which doesn't look like Salesforce, or looks like Salesforce but is not Salesforce. And essentially it asks the user to do a bunch of things and tries to tell the user that why he or she should go to the website and give some information and things like that. Obviously, this phishing email which you see here, there are several clues in this phishing email which can easily tell us that this is a phishing email, and all of us pretty much will look for it, like the from address and the URL being incorrect and so on and so forth, or even the way the mail is written and things like that. So there are many clues in this. What would happen for less diligent users is they may miss this completely. These clues may not be something they look for, or even this attack can be made more specific by not having those mistakes. So this mail comes to us, and we then this is if I'm a Salesforce user, this is the screen I see day in and day out, which is the legitimate login page for Salesforce. And this is where I log in. This is where, for example, if I'm a CRM user, Salesforce CRM user, this is what I'll see day in and day out. And I would log into it every day, and it's extremely familiar to me. Similar, if I get that earlier mail and I do click on it and I see this website, it looks very similar. I mean, it's very difficult for me to say, okay, this is not the real one. Of course, there are pointers and clues in this as well. There is no HTTPS. The URL is incorrect and things like that. And over a period of time, when Salesforce finds out about this website, they will take it down using their anti-phishing techniques. However, to some extent, for some time, this definitely would be a risk. And unless the user is diligent about watching this, it's very likely that for that period of time, this would be a risk, and the phishing email which I sent you, which I showed you earlier, would direct the user to this slide, to this website, and he could potentially give away the user and password and further information as it comes about. Of course, there are techniques which which organizations will deploy in terms of source IPs and so on and so forth. However, as usage gets prevalent and as we loosen our security posture for ease of use, several organizations who have not done those controls would fall for this attack. So this is just an example of how a cloud service like Salesforce could potentially be used for a phishing